What's the difference between a moving coil and a moving magnet cartridge? I don't know if we've ever been over this before, but if we haven't, then we should go over it again. The question comes from Chanol in Belgium. Great country. I love Belgium beer. Them monks knew how to make beer, let me tell you. What's the difference between a moving coil cartridge and a moving magnet cartridge? Hi, Paul. Which one gives better sound, and how do they work differently? And which one do you prefer for a turntable? I really appreciate your comments. Thanks to you, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and all that. Coming up stuff. Okay, there's something beeping around here. Huh, I don't know what, oh, that's that thing coming up. Yep, all right, sorry. Easily distracted I am. Yes, yes, yes. Start talking like Yoda. My grandkids came over and they are just getting into Star Wars. So we had to watch the, what's the one with Yoda? With Jabba the Hutt. Oh, The Return of the Jedi. I remember when those first came out, I was so into that, and my kids were so into it, and they were like, wow. And now you look at it and like, this is pretty camp. I mean, these effects are bad, but boy, back then, that was something else. Jabba the Hutt. Okay, so let's go over the basic differences in cartridges. So we know that a Phono cartridge's job is to convert the wiggles, up and down and sideways motions, lateral motions of a groove of a record into electrical impulses. So how does it do that? Well, if we just take in its simplest form, let's say this is our, here we go. Here's our needle. As the needle moves, it is moving either a coil or a magnet. One of the two is getting closer and farther away to each other. And we know from watching Coal to Coal Train, which you can find on YouTube, I think more than a few thousand people have watched it, but look up Coal to Coal Train. And it's on our YouTube channel. It's about an hour long. So I produced this, years ago. But it explains how a coil and a magnet work, and it's the basis of everything we do in electrical generation, in how we reproduce sound, how speakers work. It's very basic. Coal to Coal Train. It's actually got 5.1 surround sound. And I spent a lot of time making this thing. It's an actual movie. It's like an hour long, and it's got music and stuff, but it does go through how a coil and a magnet changed the world that we live in today. And it's a fascinating story. I go into Tesla, I go into Edison, and the battle between those two, which was a furious, oh man, Thomas Edison was such a jerk. This guy was so committed to his DC battery idea that he invented the electric chair. And not only did they fry all these guys, innocent or not, most of them obviously were probably convicted murderers, but they electrocuted elephants, they electrocuted horses. This guy, don't get me going about Thomas Edison, this guy was but Tesla's cool. That's why I drive a car called Tesla. Where were we going? Oh yeah, magnets and coils. So if you have a coil of wire and you take a magnet and you move it near that coil of wire, you will induce an electrical current. Just, that's the way it is. And I can hold a magnet and I can move a coil next to it and I get a moving electrical signal in exact response, and it gets stronger as I get closer and farther away as I move. But now I have to be moving, because if I just hold a magnet and a coil together, nothing happens. It's the motion of those that actually makes the electric current. It's how a generator works, all this other stuff. So a moving magnet cartridge is our needle, and at the top of the needle is a little piece of iron, a little piece of ferrous material. That's our magnet. And surrounding it are coils of wire within the cartridge. And as this, here's our coil, right? And as this needle moves back and forth in this exaggerated view, the magnet is getting closer and farther away from the coil of wire. That's a moving magnet cartridge, just as the name implies. Now, the problem with a moving magnet cartridge is the very nature of how it's built. There's a heavy piece of iron on top of this very delicate needle. And what we'd like to have is something with almost no mass whatsoever that will pick up every little deflection of that groove. But if you hook a hunk of iron on top, you're going to make this thing really heavy. So a moving coil does the opposite. Instead of a hunk of iron, a magnet, on top of our needle, we hook a couple of coils. Now, coils of very, very micro-thin wire weigh almost nothing. Now, the magnets are out here, so as the coil moves next to the fixed magnet, we get the same response of a change in electrical energy, and we hear sound. The difference between the two is A, the change in mass, so a moving coil has much lower mass and therefore can respond much better to movement without any kind of inertia and hysteresis and all that stuff. So we prefer moving coil cartridges. They are certainly better than most moving magnets. The downside is that you don't get as much volume. You don't get as much electrical energy out of it, and therefore they require a step-up device like a 30 dB amplifier or a transformer to raise the voltage up to a certain level. So that's where our trade-off comes in. You need a head amp or a moving coil amplifier to raise the level of a moving coil up to the same that naturally comes out of a moving magnet. So you'll get debates like, well, this moving coil certainly is, from a physics standpoint of motion, much better. But then it's got to go through an additional amplification stage, which then doesn't make it quite as good. Generally, I prefer moving coils to moving magnets, and I prefer, in my turntable setups, which, I'm not a big vinyl fan. Listen, I lived with vinyl for 30 years, and it's all I played and loved it. But once digital came out, digital done right, I'm in. Okay, I prefer moving coils. And that's the difference between the two. Thanks for asking. Bye.